Do you guys remember when you first played the first story mission of Destiny 2 and you got your very first weapons from shacks? Well, like most people, I was kind of just like, oh, that's kind of cool, I got new weapons, and I didn't really think much of it. And then I just moved on. But then I started using one of the weapons, the Last Dance. And oh my god, the sidearm was so good. It just melted through enemies. It was so good that for the rest of the mission, I didn't even use the origin story. That gun was not worth it. The true dance, the Last Dance is where it's at. And I just continue using that gun over and over and over and over again. And after using that sidearm so much, I just fell in love with it. It just felt amazing to me to use. I loved it so much that I actually decided to make it my job to find another sidearm like it. No, I made it my duty to rid this world of all evils with this gun. So you guys could guess what my reaction was when I got the Last Hope. A gun very similar to the Last Dance. It went something like this. Huh, finally. You can see that I really, really love existing as a person. But let's move on to the Last Hope. In my opinion, the best sidearm in the game. And one of the best guns in the game, period. It is so good. I just melt through enemies with this. It is basically the Last Dance, except a legendary. It's so good. And we're gonna have a look at it now. Here is the Last Hope in all its glory. Look how awesome it looks. Oh, it's just great. I just love using this weapon. It is amazing. And I think the skin on the weapon makes it look even better. Okay, let's have a look at Last Hope's basic stats. As you can see, it has pretty good impact. It has probably some of the best impact for a sidearm. This just melts through enemies, especially ones with its burn. With the burn it has, it just literally just melts through them straight. Like, it's the best weapon for taking out higher grade enemies. It also has pretty good range. The range is pretty decent. I have seen other sidearms that have better range than this one. Has amazing stability. You can literally max it out if you put on this perk right here, Control SAS. You can literally max it out. But I prefer to use Farpoint SAS for reasons that I'll get into later. Has pretty good handling. And has pretty good reload speed. Now, before we move on to have a look at the perks of the Last Hope, I just gotta say I'm sorry for the sudden skin change of the Last Hope. Some of my files were corrupt and had to re-record them, but by the time I re-recorded them, I accidentally changed the skin of the Last Hope, and I can't do anything about it. So you just have to get used to it. Okay, now let's look at the perks of the Last Hope. So the first perk we have is Control SAS, which increases handling speed and increases stability, and Farpoint SAS, which is greatly increases range, decreases stability, and decreases handling speed. Next perk is Ricochet rounds. Rounds ricochet off hard surfaces. It also increases stability and slightly increases range. Steady rounds. This mag is optimized for recoil control, greatly increases stability, slightly decreases range. And Zen Moment, which when you're causing damage with this weapon, it increases the gun's stability. Now that we know all the perks of the Last Hope, we should talk about what are the best perks to use when you're fighting, when you're using this weapon. Now, in my opinion, the best perks to use is obviously Zen Moment, because you can't change it at all. It's stuck like that. But the best perks to use with this gun to make Zen Moment actually be usable is Farpoint SAS and Steady Rounds. And the reason for this is, if you max out your stability, that will literally make Zen Moment useless, as you cannot, you can see in Zen Moment, causing damage to the weapon increases its stability. Now, if you have maxed out stability, that means your stability can't go any further, so it basically makes Zen Moment useless. So I have to take a little bit of stability out, and then leave and give me some more range, and then give it a little bit more, stability, just so Zen Moment doesn't have to go as far, because we only have a limited amount of rounds. You have 27 rounds, which is pretty limited, and so by the time you get to 10 or 12 rounds, you're only going to you're only going to have, the moment is probably going to be filled up, so that means you have a full thing at the last couple rounds. So in my opinion, those are the best perks to use with Last Hope. The next thing we should talk about is the way you should use this weapon. In my opinion, you should use it very aggressively and close up, because it's a sidearm, and most sidearms you need to play aggressively, and if you don't, they're basically going to be useless, because they have like barely any range. But I gotta say, for this weapon, it does have quite a lot of range for a sidearm, but still not that effective. And as you can see in the gameplay, it is very effective when I use it in close range, but not as effective when in the longer ranges. And you should also, another thing you should keep note when you're using this weapon is to like keep moving a lot, because like I don't really do it as much in this gameplay, but when I've used this like in other times, moving around and flying around, just not barely touching the ground, is a lot more effective than standing in place and just gunning them down, because you can literally get more vantage points and potentially get closer to the enemy and then take him out straight away. So I find that's the best way to use this weapon. As I remember stating before like somewhere in this video, it is also really good at taking out not bosses but higher tier like fallen captains and minotaurs, because it just melts through their shields really quickly and then melts to their health. And if depending on what burn you get on the weapon, like mine is an arc burn, it will melt through and that enemy with that burn. Like a fallen captain utterly destroys them so quickly. So you don't have to, but I recommend getting. I'm thinking of doing this, getting 3 of these, and then depending on what the circumstances are, I would switch to that Last Hope, and then just go through melting the enemies. I would do this because, like, for example, if I was going into a strike where it was predominantly fallen, I'm going to put an arc burn one on it, because, you know, most of the enemies there are going to have arc burn, so it'll be pretty effective. Okay, I'm going to go wrap the video now, but for what you should get from this video is to get Last Hope. It is a really good gun, amazing. It can literally melt through enemies, and it is so fun to use. It sounds amazing, it feels amazing, it looks amazing, and there is literally no downsides to using it other than it, you know, being a sidearm, and like, you can't use it in long range. That's the only downside it has. No, in my opinion, no other downsides. Yep. See ya.
By chunks out of me, you're a shark and I'm swimming. My heart still thumps as I bleed. And all your friends come sniffing. Triangles are my favorite shape. 3 points where 2 lines meet. Toe to toe, back to back, let's go, my love. Till morning comes, let's tessellate. Go along, my flower, and keep my all of you. I'll breathe stones along, my love, and keep along my heart. 3 guns and 1 goes off. One's empty, one's not quick enough. 1 burn, 1 red, 1 green. Set to graze while the cat spins. Chunks of you will sit down to seals. Blubber rich in morning. I'll mash you up, yes I know, so love away, but it's fair to say still haunted me. Triangles are my favorite shape. 3 points where 2 lines meet. Toe to toe, back to back, let's go. My love, it's very late. Till morning come. Let's tessellate.